You're talking about a $200,000 difference just because of a paint job. So the 05-06 Ford GT market is a pretty interesting one to study. And I really like the heritage cars, obviously. Those trade pretty consistently in the $600,000 range, depending on miles. If you were to come across a heritage edition today, let's say with 1,000 miles on the car, expect to pay $625,000 US dollars. If you were lucky enough to find one with 10,000 miles on the car, you'd still probably pay $550, just because these cars are hard to come by with miles. You know, a lot of people bought these cars and stuffed them away with the intention of reselling them as collector garage queen cars. And so for the few enthusiasts that do want to drive the car, there's a premium to be paid when you do find the driver example, as there's probably less of those that exist than the garage queen. If I had to guess across the board, the average mileage on Ford GT, probably 500 miles on each car would be the average. It's just pretty sad. The highest mileage Ford GT I've ever seen was 160,000 miles on a tungsten car out west. So these cars are bulletproof. You can drive them. I've seen other cars with 80,000 miles, many Ford GTs with 40, 50,000 miles. And these cars require very little service. There's no crazy time belt or anything like that. And so these cars can be driven. It's just that, unfortunately, kind of like the Vipers and stuff, these cars were bought by people with the intention of reselling them. And many of them remained not driven. As a trusted car advisor, it's pretty funny. If you were to come to me and ask for a delivery mileage 4-option Ford GT, I could pretty much turn this car up in 24 hours. But if you were to come to me and say, hey, I want a 20,000 mile Ford GT Heritage, you'd be waiting 2 years for this car to pop up. And I think that's pretty amazing because cars are meant to be driven. It's unfortunate because one of my dream cars is the 06 Heritage. And I would love to find one with 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles, and get a great discount. As Ed would say, I want the worst example of the best car. And I've had trouble finding this car because nobody had the balls to drive the Ford GT Heritage. The 06 Heritage Ford GT was an option available to everybody. Anybody could order the Heritage package at $13,000 when it was new. And today, that option makes your car worth $200,000 more. If you look at a car, let's say 1,000 miles, we just talked about, is worth $625,000 US dollars with a Heritage package. If you look at a car red with white stripes, white with blue stripes, the same miles, that car is going to bring $425,000. You're talking about a $200,000 difference just because of a paint job. There is no difference in the motor, interior. There's no special numbering on this car. It's literally just a paint job, and it makes the car way more collectible. There's no question that colors make cars. I have a lot of collectors that come to me. In the day and age of social media, they want something that stands out. Something like the Heritage Edition certainly does that. And I think that the midnight blue stripe delete, the red stripe delete, there's other variants of the Ford GT that stand out as well. And you don't have to spend $650,000 to get an ultra collectible Ford GT. I think a very savvy collector will seek out something that's not immediately available. You want to find a car like a white stripe delete. Who's ever thought about a white stripe delete? Have you seen a white stripe delete Ford GT? If you find a rare stripe delete car like that, expect to pay a premium over a standard red and white stripe car. But it'll still be at a great value compared to a Heritage. In the past 2 years, I've sold over 40 Ford GTs. And what I've observed is that colors and options definitely play a huge role in value and desirability. What follows the Heritage is a common question. Not everybody wants the Heritage. Some people think the Heritage is too striking, it's too flashy for the road. In my observation of selling dozens of Ford GTs over the years, I believe the midnight blue is the second most desirable standard color, followed closely by speed yellow. The yellow is very hard to come by, and it's a funny color to talk about because some people either love it or they hate it. There's people that have to have a yellow car, and there's people that will never buy a yellow car. And you cannot convince them to buy a yellow car no matter how good the deal is. Blue and yellow, I would say, are the second most desirable colors. Followed by tungsten is a good choice because it's 06 only, which some people find collectible as being a one-year model color. But there were a lot produced, and often those come to market. The Quicksilver is also 05 only. It's not one of my personal favorite colors, but they're hard to come by. And so if you're talking colors only, that's a great collectible example. And obviously the black cars, the white cars, the red, they kind of fall under the same umbrella. Those pretty much bring the standard amount, low 400s with a couple thousand miles on it. And if you want to discuss values on these cars, it's pretty interesting. There's a plethora of delivery mileage cars that come available all throughout the year. Unlike most other collector cars, it's very hard to find a car from the mid-2000s with delivery miles. But people who bought these cars new saw the investment opportunity, and many of those collectors stashed them away. And so at any given time, you go on Bring Your Trailer or eBay, Auto Trader, you can find super low mileage Ford GTs. Because of that, it's way harder to find a car that has been driven. Let's just say a generic car, red with white stripes, with 5 miles. That's gonna be the most common color Ford GT you're gonna find online. With 5 miles, this car is realistically gonna sell for $565,000 to $585,000, high 500s range. If you were to find that same car with all 4 options, let's say 200 miles, you can expect on a great day, you'll achieve $525,000. If you find that same car with 2,000 miles, expect to pay $450,000 range. With all 4 options, low ownership history. The details matter on these expensive cars because these are collector grade examples. So a car with 6 owners is not gonna always bring the same amount as a car with 1 owner. Or a car that has been modified is not gonna bring the same amount as a car that is all original with no paintwork, low ownership history, with all documentation, window sticker, both keys, car cover, etc. So these collectors place extreme value on having a highly original, collectible, complete car. And if you're gonna pay $500,000 for a car, why wouldn't you? My favorite Ford GT is the driver. These cars are highly sought after and highly respected across car enthusiasts because they're one of the best driving experiences money can buy. When I'm seeking a Ford GT for myself, I want a high mileage car that I can drive, turn the key, and not worry about the valuation. So many collectors come to me and ask for a high mileage Ford GT, which is much harder to come by than a delivered mileage car. And so if you're looking for a driver Ford GT, expect to pay almost the same amount as a car with low miles, which is quite the opposite of most collector cars. Since very few people drove their Ford GT, if you find one with 25,000 plus miles, expect to pay $350,000 range with all 4 options in the standard colors, red, white, black, or tungsten. Just because there's very few people who drove this car, and secondly, people who did drive that car, they're not gonna sell it because very few cars can replace the experience that this car brings in that price range. And so, yes, people did drive their Ford GT, but those people that drove it, they hold on to them tight and they're not selling them. So very common comment that I see on Bring Your Trailer and these other platforms where these low mileage cars come available is, why does nobody drive these Ford GTs? Why does nobody drive these cars? People do drive those cars, but the people who drive them don't sell them. These cars that are constantly trading are CDs. These are bank accounts to very wealthy individuals. A lot of these people who have a 200-mile Ford GT see that as a pile of cash sitting in the corner. So that's why you see those cars trade versus the driver examples. So in my opinion, the most important option of the 4 is probably the wheels. I love the BBS alloy optional wheels. The BBS wheels are like jewelry on the Ford GT. In my opinion, that's the most important option, followed by the radio. People love the Macintosh radio. I don't see much of a benefit for the radio in the car, but collectors, they gotta have it. Everybody asks me, does it have the Macintosh radio? A lot of people have also said that the subwoofer interferes with seeing the supercharger behind you. As a driver, if you're gonna drive the car, the Macintosh radio is probably not gonna be your friend. So something very interesting to me on the 0506 Ford GT, after following many transactions online and Bring Your Trailer, is that people don't obsess over original paint. People don't require paint meter readings. If you go on Bring Your Trailer and look at the last 10 Ford GTs that transacted, unlike other collector cars, people do not require paint meter readings. And that's because these cars were hand painted at the assembly line and they're not fully consistent across the entire car. And so most importantly is the condition and the quality of the car presented. As long as the car looks like a showroom museum piece, people will be happy to pay.
This month, the VINwiki content is brought to you by Bridgestone, and the most exciting news out of Bridgestone is the new release of their Turanza Prestige tire. It is their flagship Grand Touring tire, targeting luxury SUVs, crossovers, and sedans, like a Mercedes S-Class or a BMW X7. And this gives you all the whisper quiet ride that you want in a high-end luxury experience, as well as the wet and dry weather performance that we love from Bridgestone. And you'll get some of the greatest longevity they've ever had on street tires, 70,000 mile limited warranty. So we love Bridgestone for their sports car and supercar tires in the Potenza range. Of course, the Dueler AT Ascent that I've got on my Porsche Cayenne, I absolutely love. But whatever you're looking to find tires for, Bridgestone has something great. So check them out now at the link in the description below to learn more about the Bridgestone family of tires.